You really need authorizations and waivers?
You betcha. You betcha.
You betcha.
Oh, you betcha.
Why don't we break this down just a little bit, James? What is an authorization?
An authorization is what you use to kind of bypass the FAA's current rules. It's issued by the FAA, and it's showing them that you kind of know what you're doing. So if you want to go higher than 400 feet, or if you want to fly faster than 100 miles an hour, or if you want to fly in certain types of airspace, like the Bravo airspace around Las Vegas, you can apply through the FAA dronezone.faa.gov to actually get an authorization. Now, there's a difference between authorizations and waivers.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll talk about that here in just a minute.
Absolutely.
Or since I brought it up, we can.
Since you brought it up, let's just do it.
Let's just do it. All right. So an authorization means that you can go out, and mainly these are issued for airspace. So a lot of times you'll hear somebody say, "Hey, I have an airspace waiver," when they actually have an airspace authorization.
Okay.
What an authorization is FAA saying, yes, you can fly there, but you have to let us know beforehand. You have to either hop on LANCE, which is the low altitude authorization, automated system, I'm sure we'll talk about it, or call FAA and say, hey, this is where I want to fly. So where a waiver is where you've shown the FAA that you're capable enough with your authorization to just go and fly. So with a waiver, you can just go. With an authorization, you have to contact ahead of time and say, hey, I want to fly here. So there's a big difference between authorization and a waiver.
Okay. All right. So for as an example, just to reiterate, if you wanted to go through and say fly on the Las Vegas Strip, right? Of course, we're in Las Vegas, so
Of course. No.
that's what we're going to do. Ta-da!
We want to fly there.
So you want to go through and fly the Strip. You've not done it yet. You're going to be falling under an authorization.
Correct.
As long as you go through the FAA to get that authorization, right? And so we're assuming that part is already done.
Right.
But you're going to start off by having the authorization, so you will have to contact a specific contact, whether it be in the tower, specific email, phone calls, right? However they want you to specify and say, this is where I'm flying. You're authorized to fly there, but we need to know ahead of time that you're flying there.
And of course, they can always still say no.
Okay, all right.
That's a tier moment.
Okay, so they still have the option to basically say, no, you can't fly there.
Right.
You know,
So, like, if you want to fly this particular spot, right here, I guess, we're on the Strip, sure. Mm-hmm. If you want to fly in an area where there's a lot of air traffic or there's something going on, they can still say, yeah, there's too many helicopters, or there's too much other air traffic, or hey, there's somebody else flying there right now, okay. So yeah, you might want to try and schedule another time.
Okay, all right. And then on the opposite end of that, a waiver will allow you to fly there without contacting the FAA first, because you've already demonstrated that you are knowledgeable. Correct. And you've already gone through the authorization process. So do you have to do the authorization process and then the waiver process, or can you bypass the authorization?
So you can attempt to do the waiver process without going through the authorization. Okay. Your only problem with that is they're going to look at it and say, well, you have all the boxes marked for your waiver application, but you've never flown here under an authorization, so how do we know you're going to be able to fulfill all those boxes? Okay. So it's more beneficial to apply for your authorization first, fly under that for about 6 months to a year, show them that you know what you're doing, and then apply for your waiver. I might or might not have a waiver application that's still pending from before Drone Zone even became a thing. So like 3.5 years ago, I applied for a waiver, and it's still pending.
Right. Well, currently the way that you're going to be requesting either your authorization or your waiver would be through the FAA dronezone.faa.gov.
Right, because the FAA wants you to know you're on an FAA website.
Of course. They don't want you to forget who you're talking to.
Yeah, it's the FAA. They're fantastic people.
Okay. And so you mentioned that airspace. What other kind of authorizations or waivers are you able to apply for?
So a big one that a lot of people are going after is the night flight waiver, 107.29, which we actually instruct on. There's also the over people, the 107.41. Multi-drone, so if you're trying to fly multiple aircraft at the same time, 107.35. And then there's a whole slew of 107.51 for altitude, speed, distance, and all of that. So those are just some of them. There's a few others tossed in there, but a lot of them you won't hear about. Like, there's one for clouds, flying in clouds, or flying above clouds. And, some fun stuff.
Sounds like some safety concerns associated with some of those. So, okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. If you guys have any other questions, make sure that you comment down below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you stay tuned because we will be releasing more podcasts soon.